So we're here for episode 2 of Agnerds. We're joined today by Janice Person. She is based out of Memphis, Tennessee, and she's with Monsanto. Welcome today, Janice.
Thank you, Sean. It's great to be with you guys.
Some people would know Janice. Obviously, she is JP Loves Cotton on Twitter as well. So if you want to follow her, she's there.
I am. And that's also my .com for my blog, if you want to check that out. And there's the MonsantoBlog.com where I write some things for work. So.
Perfect. Got to get some work in. It can't be all fun. Got to be some work as well. And we're also joined by Peter Gredig from Agnition. Welcome today, Peter.
Good to be here, Sean.
Peter is, of course, on every edition of Agnerds. And Peter is on Twitter. He is AgWag. So if you want to follow him, he is there. Okay, so today we are going to talk about tablets. Last episode we talked about smartphones. I think farmers actually have more questions about tablets. Janice, what are you using for a tablet?
So I've got the iPad, and I'm one of those ag nerds that had to have it the day the 3G model came out. And I've had a chance to compare notes with some other folks for quite a while now, already a year.
Okay. So were you the person that bought the Wi-Fi edition first and then sold it after 2 months to get the 3G?
I know some people that did that, but I actually got mine and have stuck with it. I had to take the 2 months to wait for the 3G.
Perfect. Peter, do you have any tablets right now?
Well, I guess I'm like a lot of Canadian farmers, we're big on Blackberry, so I've got my Torch Blackberry smartphone, and I've been waiting patiently. This was originally going to be a throwdown between Janice and I. I was going to be the Playbook representative, and we would kind of compare notes between the iPad and BlackBerry's Playbook tablet. But oh man, we're still waiting for it. It's not out yet. I think sometime in April we're going to see them.
Is that? But that's in the U.S. as well, right? April in the U.S.
Yeah, I guess from what I gather, Sean, it looks like they're going to do a simultaneous launch in Canada and the U.S., which is a little bit unusual. Usually it starts in the U.S. first, but I think they're talking like mid-April. So I'm here to learn a bit from Janice and how she uses her iPad and how she may see farmers use it. I was really hoping to have a Playbook in hand before I headed to the fields to do seeding this spring. So I'm excited about the devices. I think it just takes us to another level in terms of what we can do with a mobile device, with a bigger screen, better web access, etc. So I'm really here to learn from Janice's experience and hopefully get my hands on a Playbook, so somewhere down the line we can go toe to toe.
Hey Janice, is there anybody in the U.S. that is there any hype behind the Playbook at all?
Well, in the U.S. we really haven't heard as much about it. I think it's because the iPad and we just had the launch of the iPad 2, right? So Zoom has gotten a lot of attention, and that's mainly from the Droid fans. So the Playbook, I guess, more of us that I also have a BlackBerry, and the Torch recommendation from Peter was actually very helpful, and that's what I have. But we haven't heard as much about the Playbook.
Okay, so most people have the iPad in the U.S.?
It's very funny because this time last year, when it was first coming out, and they still didn't have the 3G model, but already I was at the Cotton Gin Show out in Lubbock, and I already had farmers that had theirs in tow and were taking notes and presentations and things along that line. So I think the development curve in terms of working these into everyday life has just been astounding. I think it offers a lot of potential for what we're going to see as we get more competitive tablets on the market. And, now that we have a second generation tablet, which I haven't purchased yet, but I'm just kind of biding my time because I have some other expenses I'm doing right now instead. I think we're going to see great leaps in technology. And I think as that happens, you're going to see big shifts in the way people are using them. But already this first generation has been incredibly useful for a number of people that I know, at least, and I've gotten used to seeing them on the farm with big fingers on them. Whereas my my brother-in-law would point out with the Blackberry, it's sometimes hard if maybe you don't have smaller hands and fingers. It seems the iPad is no limiter on that anymore, and folks are just having at it, getting a lot of work done.
Well, I know when I first got my iPad, I bought it for personal use. I'm into new devices, and I guess I quickly found out that it had a huge practical use for work. How do we see the tablet fitting on the farm? How do we, obviously, like the iPad 2 has a camera which has different things, but how do we see farmers using them, Peter?
Well, I guess intuitively, what I'm looking forward to is just that larger screen landscape. So, with a Blackberry or an iPhone or a Droid phone, you've got that smaller screen. So, the apps that we're going to see or that we're seeing now on those devices are really powerful. But, I think about agronomy, the ability to see really high resolution detailed video or images of whether it's disease plants or pests or weeds or even like product support. If I have a problem with my combine and I see the day where we're going to be able to have like instructional videos piped to our tablets. So, I just see that larger screen and that improved web access as sort of untapped potential. And I'd really be interested to see if Janice agrees or if she sees other uses.
What do you think?
Actually, it's so funny, Peter, that you bring it up that way. Obviously, Sean, I've told you before, but I bought the iPad personally for my personal use and have found it, an incredible boon for me. But I've also seen a lot of the work applications. But when Peter was talking, the first thing I thought about was the fact that I used my iPad and watched some video as I had a problem with my washing machine. And my niece and I got it out, and we did our own video in the end of us fixing the washing machine that was having problems because we were able to YouTube some videos on it, And that's, you're no longer worried about where you're going to plug something in. You're no longer worried about flipping the screen up and whether you can get the right angle of the screen based on the base of the laptop and stuff like that. With a tablet, you can hold it wherever you have the space and you're free to move. I think what I've seen in terms of diagnostics and stuff, I think we have some companies that are beginning to put together applications. You may not see it quite as advanced as what Peter was talking about, but I agree totally. When our people are in the field and, you're an agronomist or something out on the farm helping a farmer out, a lot of times a farmer will shoot a photo, whether you're near them or not, and they'll email it to you. Well, if you're looking at that on a 2-inch screen, your ability to really understand what that farmer may have going on in his field is going to be dramatically different than if you're looking at it at an 8-inch screen. So Peter's spot on that a lot of farmers are really looking forward to that. I've heard a little feedback here recently by some friends like Ryan Weeks, who's Husker Farm, and he's finding it great company in the tractor. I know that some of the tablets may not have great visibility and full out sun, and we still need to find somebody that understands how to knock that glare off or something. But he's finding it very useful, there right alongside all his other electronics and the auto steer and stuff, so he can get market information. So he doesn't have to look at the tiny screen. He's able to keep his focus a little more broadly. I think Zach Honeycutt's doing some of the similar kinds of things. Marketing probably is the most advanced area right now, as well as weather.
Right.
It's fantastic to be able to get spot-on maps of where you are and what you're doing.
Janice, what are your thoughts on just how they may stand up in the environment that a lot of producers are going to have, whether it's in the tractor or the combine or sprayer?
Yeah.
We've gone through this thing with laptops and they didn't really stand up too well. Of course, they were a lot more expensive at one point, but do you think are they robust enough to sort of take a few seasons in the field?
So I think that I think at least at what I've seen so far, I've not seen but one or two people that had a big mishap in terms of what happened when they dropped it. I know quite a few people who have dropped them. And I think most people have tended to look at what kind of case they have these things in, which is a little different than a laptop. You know, if you get the right kind of case, you've got an extra layer of padding there to really take the bulk of the shock for you. And I think, you know, what's funny is I think the farmers that I've been talking to and seeing use it in the field, and I've got a guy out in Lubbock that I really want to talk to you guys about because I think the way he's using it is incredible. I think, you know, there's fewer buttons on this thing. There's fewer ways for you to get entry into it. So I think, you know, a small spraying of water isn't as big of a problem as it is with maybe some of our other things where you've got a lot of keyboard, you've got a lot of this and that, you know, where water gets into them a little bit faster.
Yeah, that's true. Less openings.
It's a big difference. I think if I was a farmer, I wouldn't be carrying it around much without some kind of decent case around this puppy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about? Do we recommend putting like one of those plastic screen covers on it, like to protect it from dirt and from stuff like that as well?
You know, I tend to keep one on mine. I don't have one on it today though, so it's kind of funny that you know, I say I tend to keep one on it. You know, there's a big difference in some of those kind of things in the marketplace, and the last one I bought just wasn't going to cut it. So I finally took it off, and I need to get out to like a Sharper Image or a Best Buy or something that would do something that holds up a little bit better. What I found is pretty funny about the screen protectors. It also keeps me from having to wipe off fingerprints a lot, which is probably the biggest boon for me.
Yeah, when you and I were in Chicago together, Janice, you know, there was a lot of use of our iPads, and you're constantly having to wash the screen, which is kind of annoying. And it's almost kind of embarrassing when someone's like, "Oh, hey, can I look at your iPad?" and your screen is just covered in fingerprints.
Well, yeah. Think about farmers with we tend to get a little greasy, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm interested to know, Janice, like, how has it affected or what kind of impact you have in your data plan? Because, you know, I've got my torch. I surf the web as much as I need to, but I fully anticipate I'm going to do more web browsing with my tablet device. And, you know, you mentioned the guy who's potentially watching video while he's in his tractor. So I think there's potential to use a lot more data. What have you found on that front?
So actually on my plan, I have, you know, in the U.S. our plans are, there's a few different ones, and I have the lowest plan possible. So it's $14.99 a month.
You're kidding me. $14.99?
That ticks me off.
Well, obviously your plans are cheaper.
But your dollars are not really real dollars. They're Canadian dollars.
Oh, you know what, Janice? I think actually our dollar is worth the same as yours. Before you want to start talking currency smack.
I'm just joking with you, Sean. But it really, I got that really basic plan because so much of my stuff, you know, I'm using it a lot when I travel, and I travel extensively for work. What's interesting is I kind of assumed, you know, when I first got it that, okay, you're probably stupid for getting the lowest plan. You probably should bump it way up because on every phone and everything I've always had to have the highest. But because of the dynamic of how I'm using it, I use it so much when I'm on the road and you have a hotel with free wireless or some of those kind of things. I think what's interesting is with more of the farms that are really using kind of GPS technologies and stuff, I think some more folks are talking about whether or not they're going to have access in more rural areas where they're going to have wireless services kind of through the air as well. So in some places, I also pick up AT&T Wi-Fi, which, you know, you can just be anywhere and just happen to find it. So I think the problem is probably with, you know, more remote areas and things. I agree, you know, watching too much video is going to eat you up on your data plan. But a lot of those are also structured so they have a low resolution version that goes first on a mobile line. So I wouldn't overreact to it. I'd just be sensitive and watch those first couple of months use. And really, in the U.S. at least, we have the ability to make changes on ours on a monthly basis.
So, what, like for a $14 plan, what are you getting for data?
I should have known you were going to ask that, so I'm going to have to look it up. So,
because I think I pay like I'm going to say like $40, like, or 35 maybe. Like it's. But I got I think I got like the mid plan. I think I get like 250 megabytes or something, or maybe I can't remember, 500 maybe.
Yeah, I think I get 500, and it costs me about $40.
But now in Canada, Rogers has this thing where you can. I'm not a Rogers customer, but I know they've been marketing it. Is where you can put all your devices together on one data plan. That makes a lot of sense. Do you have that in the U.S., Janice?
That sounds awesome. I have to admit, since I work for a company, my Blackberry is paid for on a corporate side, and I haven't looked at how to get a smartphone and everything all on one. But I do know that I could combine some elements. I'm not sure the iPad would fit in, say, on a kind of cellular home, cell phone, all those kind of things.
Right.
Well, it'll be neat to see how the playbook works, because it's going to tether, through your BlackBerry and through your Bez, or through your enterprise server. So, that's something I'm looking forward to seeing how that works, and if it's convenient or if it's pain, we'll see.
Or if it ever comes out.
And